well, hello and welcome to the Historic District Board of Review meeting. I apologize for my late delay. It's been a little bit of a long day for me. So we'll get this started. Brooke, you want to do roll call?
Nope, still me. Josh Wilbur.
Here.
Thomas Stark.
Here.
Jerry Wade.
Here.
Owen McCall.
Here.
Ken McWilliams.
Here.
Mike Pittman.
Here.
Jerome Brennan.
Right. So Jerome's not here, right? Vacation. Okay. With that, we'll go to the last month's minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Yep. Or any corrections or additions need to be made? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I move we accept minutes from the last meeting. I'll second.
Mike Pittman.
Approve.
Ken McWilliams.
Approve.
Owen McCall.
Approved.
Jerry Wade.
Approved.
Josh Wilbur.
Approved.
Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, with that, we'll get into our applications that have been submitted. Just to go over a little bit of how the application process goes for some of you who have not been to one of these. We will first have the applicant, whoever's representing the application, come up to the podium. We'll have you state your name and address. At that point in time, Brooke, or I assume Brooke will okay. Brooke will go over the application of what's been submitted for the audience and the board to hear. At that point in time, I'll ask the applicant if they have anything more to add to the application of what's been stated. And then at that point, the board will have time to ask any questions that they have about the application. After that, then we will ask the audience if they have any issues or questions. And then the board will go through what we call findings of fact, which is going through our guidelines and ensuring that whether or not the application meets the guidelines. At that point in time, we will have a motion on the application of whether to approve or not approve. So that's how the process goes. And with that, we'll start with our first application at 704 West Street.
The application has been withdrawn.
It has been withdrawn. Okay. All right. We'll go to the next one at 927 West 1st Street.
I'm Mike Prickett, 919 West 1st Street.
Next one.
This circa 1880 gable front home located at 927 West 1st Street is owned by Mike Prickett and is a non-contributing structure zoned historic district residential.
Brooke, slides are coming up.
I'm trying to get that fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, while I'm talking, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to do two things at once. I apologize.
No problem.
The applicant is requesting to install 2 new transom windows. On the east side, infill the west side basement window, replace the south side basement door, and replace the south side main level window with a patio door. Mr. Prickett has already received a staff-approved COA to replace 2 north side front windows, replace the basement window, apply wood siding to the home, build a gable roof awning over the front door, and replace the front door. And I am bringing the slides back up. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, they froze. It would not advance. So.
While she's bringing that up, Mike, do you have anything to add to what she's stated?
I don't really know at this point. You know, I guess we've got probably questions about the back porch and stuff that I'm wanting to do, but I guess we need to wait till we get somewhat of a picture up there or something. See if anybody has questions, or I didn't provide a very clear picture of what I had envisioned in the back.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, it was being extremely slow. Looks like it's working. All right, so you can see the pictures of the home front and back as it is currently. The picture to the left is of the proposed deck or porch. excuse me, and the picture to the right, is the proposed patio door.
There's not gonna be a garage door down below there.
There will not.
And then,
No, that's just to kind of show the upper deck and stuff with the railing.
it does show, just for your information, the 1886 Sanborn map does show the home originally had a porch, but the porch was located on the side, not the rear. But I just wanted to show that for extra additional information. I will go back to the pictures of the proposed items.
So basically, all I'm wanting to do there on the back of is, I'm just gonna build a gabled roof, sitting down a couple feet below what that one there is, and set it in a little bit. It's just gonna be a covered deck above with a concrete patio, covered patio below it. Gonna put a large patio door like it shows on my little drawings on the back of the house there, where the air conditioner is. Just put a patio door in there, stepping out onto the deck, and then down below would be the existing door and window would just be replaced. It's just gonna be a simple wood deck, like I said, concrete patio down below, underneath that a shingled roof. I'm gonna re-shingle the whole thing, redo the chimney sticking out of the top, put cedar lap siding on everywhere. There's already some transom windows. You got the side picture of there's already some transom windows on the east side of the house. I was gonna replace them with just a little bit larger ones.
These are the only two that I have, so that's the side
No.
you're referring to?
You don't have any of the side of it?
No, these were the pictures that I was given with the application.
Okay. But anyway, there's already a couple transom windows on the side. It might take me forever to find them.
Is that
Here.
on the east side?
On the east side of the home. There's none in that packet that you have?
No, sir, I can pull your packet, but these were the only pictures that were submitted.
But anyway, it may be a moot point anyway. If anyone has any questions, I can try to answer.
You said you're gonna replace them with larger windows? How much larger would be?
Yeah, so. Show you can pass it along or whatever.
Okay.
Basically, there's 3 small ones there now.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna replace it with one long one. It's gonna fill out about the same space. There'll be one long one there and then another.
Rather than,
Yeah, these 3 here are over top of the kitchen cabinets, and then that one there's in the bathroom. So it's gonna be one long one there, and then the one small one to your rough.
will the long one have any dividers?
Yes, it had divisions in it as well. It'd be divided into 3.
Okay.
Do you have the dimensions on that long one?
It's approximately 10 foot by 2 foot.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks to me like that'll make it look a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And we're gonna use just cedar lap siding back on, get rid of the vinyl. Going with all sun, aluminum clad wood windows. The front door, we talked about, Nicole sent me one that was approved by you all or whatever. And I do want to transom over it too, because if you look at the front of the house, you did have it up there, didn't you?
Yeah.
The front of the house, you can see how much taller the windows are than the door. So I assume it probably had a transom there at one time. We'll find out when we tear the siding off and stuff. But I'm going to make a transom come up on top of the door that'll be the same height as the 2 windows. And then it'll have just a little, you do have a copy of the little front porch, don't you? Or do you not have that because it's already been approved?
Right, it's already been approved, so I
Okay.
did not.
Just a little small gable, just something so you step up on the step and not get your head wet while you're trying to get in.
Any questions from the board?
Yep, Mike and Ken, and the operative description of your home is non-contributed for us, so it's good for you. I think your lot's fabulous. I think the change you've made are just, it's gonna be great. So
Thanks.
I appreciate putting the work in.
I think it'd be a shame not to put a deck on the back of that since it overlooks that little river that runs alongside.
Yeah, with the Heritage Trail back there and then the river and stuff, yeah, it's
You got
really,
it, nice job.
it's lost.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions, comments from the audience?
Josh, I would make the comment that that is in the floodplain, and Mr. Crickett's aware of that. We've had discussions. Typically speaking, that type of structure is, it's not the floodway, it's a floodplain. It's going to be pretty easy to get approvals to do that because it's an open structure below, but anyway, just
Okay.
so you guys know that is part of the process.
Okay. Thank you. All right, hearing no comments from the audience, we'll go through our findings of fact. Tom, let's start us off.
Sure. Per the residential guidelines for awnings on page 35, awnings for windows or porches were common features of buildings in the late 19th century. They should be built over the doors or windows, should not damage the original structure, should fit the opening, and are significant architectural details. And what you're adding back to the front of that house, I think, is going to, really make a huge improvement, especially with the alignment of the doors and the front windows. Doors and entrances, per residential guidelines 39 through 42. Doors are often the building's central visual element. This house is a non-contributing structure in the historic district. Replacement door and transom above the door will horizontally even out the front of the house, and it meets the guidelines and will be a great improvement. The porches, residential guidelines 49 and 50. Porches are defining characters of historic houses. New porches should be consistent with the historic appearance of the building, and I believe they are. Windows, residential guidelines 60 to 63. They're going to be aluminum clad wood, I believe I heard you say. And so windows are prominent building components of the structure. This house is non-contributing, however, it's important that the windows appear to look similar to the structures around it. The addition of the transom windows will improve the overall look, and new windows, or no new windows were being added except the transom windows, and I believe that
And
was
the transoms
correct,
are just
right?
replacing transoms that are actually already there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the improvements that you brought before the board are going to really make a huge improvement.
Hope so.
Owen?
I agree with everything Tom said. I guess the only additional comment is and this has happened before, I'm kind of confused why this is a non-contributing structure. It's 1880 gable front building. Seems to me that it contributes to the historic district, but Camille Fife or whoever it was that did this, I don't understand.
The reason why this one is listed as non-contributing is because of the numerous modern materials that have been added. For example, the vinyl siding on the exterior. I believe, if I remember correctly, this one had new windows and doors as well. So when you're adding that many new modern materials, especially vinyl siding, it tends to bring the house into that non-contributing category.
Brooke, is
Because
it
the law
possible
said-
that it could become a contributing structure after he finishes, removing the vinyl siding and adding the transom above the window, cedar siding?
I mean, there is a potential for a house to go into that category, dependent upon the changes. However, I would have Nicole weigh in, I think, on this one, but I don't believe in this case that would necessarily be true.
Yeah, if he was restoring maybe the siding, or if there was windows that you could put back in that were original to that house or that time period, it could potentially, but since he's still adding more modern materials, it's most likely gonna stay non-contributing.
Okay.
But is there a mechanism for putting it back contributing, or would it just be the next time a survey was done, it would just get reevaluated?
There is a mechanism, but typically it's just done by when a survey is updated.
And Mike, you said, if I heard right, you're actually gonna get rid of all that vinyl and make the whole house consistent with the,
It's all gonna be just cedar lap siding.
oh, that's fantastic.
Ken?
No, I approve of Thomas and Owen, same reason.
Mike?
I agree with everybody for the same reasons. Nice job.
Jerry?
Agree as well.
And I too agree as well. So with that, I will accept the motion.
Based on the preceding facts for 927 West First Street, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Mike Prickett for the proposed additions and changes to that property.
We have a second.
Close?
Second.
Josh Goldberg,
Approved.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman.
Approved.
And just as a reminder, board, please use your microphone so that the camera and the recorder can pick you up.
All right, so Mike, with that, you'll get your COA email. Of course, anything you need to take through Brian for building permits, yeah, I do that too as well.
Okay.
All right, might as well stay up here. I think they're the next app. So, 919 West First Street.
This circa 1900 cottage located at 919 West First Street and owned by Mike Prickett is a contributing structure zoned historic district residential. The applicant is requesting to build an addition on the south and west side of the home that will have a concrete foundation and typical wood framing. You can see the pictures currently, front and back. And this is the proposed, with the addition, the proposed exterior of the home.
You have anything to add, Mike?
No, I'm really confused, kind of like he was, because this home I thought was built by Charles Hensler in around 1971, so I don't know how it's a contributing home. It has a concrete block foundation, it has vinyl siding, it has aluminum windows and steel doors. And so I'm really confused on the whole thing. Not that it matters to me at all, but that was just that was funny that one is contributing when, like I say, I believe it was built in around 71 by Charles.
Well, it's 50 years today.
Okay, so there we go. But it has vinyl siding, vinyl windows, and just a shingle roof. So, but anyway, it's just a little small house. We've used it just for kind of a weekend vacation home a little bit, but we like living downtown. We like that area down there and stuff. So we're gonna do some things there. So we sold our house in the country. And if you go back to my other picture there, we're gonna. You can see it's got about a 312 roof on it. It's just really flat and stuff. So we're just gonna decapitate it, build out to the west and out to the south, and try to make it just a little bit bigger and more livable. Our kitchen's actually in the basement there right now, which is totally in the flood zone. So we're gonna move our kitchen, our living area, everything upstairs, and basically just the downstairs will be all open patio underneath of the home. And then all of our living space will be up on the main level there. We're gonna do the same thing there. We're gonna have a shingle roof. We're gonna have the sun, aluminum clad wood windows, cedar siding, fiberglass doors, and a little bit of a small deck out the back. We're gonna do just painted wood railing and stuff for the porches. And that's about it.
Was the roof already approved?
I've notated
been
all.
approved. I don't think anything's been
So
approved
your
on that.
pitch on your roof, you're gonna change the pitch then? on your
Yeah, I'm gonna go to
roof?
612.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I notated all staff approvable items, and this was not because it was a new addition, so that's why.
No problem, I just wanted to make sure.
So we need to include that in the motion, right?
Yeah.
612?
612 pitch, yeah. And that shingle roof.
Yeah, just shingle roof, dimensional shingles.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you again for making the effort, Mike. It looks great.
Thanks. Trying to make it fit in a little bit better than what Charles did.
I agree with you too. I don't think it's not contributing.
Charles did things a little bit cheaper.
A little different.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments from the board? All right, any questions, comments from the audience?
Josh, I'd say the same thing here. Mr. Prickett knows as far as floodplain, and just for everyone's understanding, the way he's got designed, that open structure, that is development in the floodplain, but it's an open type structure, so again, he shouldn't have much difficulty getting that approved, so just for what it's worth.
Yeah, my main floor is actually above I had here, Herzo, or however you say it, they did me an elevation certificate and stuff, so my main floor is slightly above the flood, but none of that down below is.
So Brian, is it, and when anything is in the floodplain, is it more about the flow of water so that the water can get back out?
Yes, yeah, it's disturbance of, you know, if you're building something that's going to push that flood water elsewhere, that's where they get concerned, but
Okay.
basically this water can come and go.
Yeah.
All right. So no questions or comments from the audience. We'll go to findings of fact. Owen?
Okay, well, since this, even though it says it's contributing, we agree that it's really not a contributing structure. I don't really feel like the guidelines should have much impact, you know, per se on what happens here, but I don't seem to be in a problem anyway, because this addition is, it's gonna be on the rear. I should say this, we refer to page 68 of the residential guidelines for these, and first point is they should be at the rear, not on the front of the sides, and it should be secondary to the main structure, which it is. It's compatible in design with the original, which is point 3. And I'm not sure the other points really, it shouldn't imitate an earlier historic style, which it's not. It's compatible with what's there. It seems to be, to me, to be completely compatible with the guidelines.
Do you want to mention anything about the roof?
Oh, well, yeah, the roof should be,
6 foot.
6 foot.
yeah, 6 and 12 pitch, which, that's,
Make it look better.
well,
Better drainage.
Ken?
I agree with Owen for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree, for the same reasons.
Jerry?
I agree for the same reasons.
Tom?
I agree for the same reasons.
Yeah, I too agree for the same reasons. I think it's a major upgrade actually as a whole. Really does make it fit in.
Right.
And what you have there looks like it fits in a whole lot better with the downtown Madison Historic District, so appreciate it. All right, I'll accept the motion.
okay, now I move that, based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Mike Prickett for the proposed rear addition and change in roof slope structure at 919 West First Street.
Second?
I second.
Mike Pittman,
Approved?
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Thomas Stark.
Approve?
All right, Mike, yeah, you'll get the COA in the mail. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, our next application is 811 through 813 East 2nd Street.
That one, the applicant has requested that we postpone,
Okay,
so we do need to vote on
all
that.
right. Can we get a motion to postpone this to next month?
I move we postpone the application at 811 to 813 East 2nd Street till next meeting.
Second?
Thomas Stark,
Approve?
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman,
Approved?
Josh Wilbur.
Approved. All right, next application is 222 West 2nd Street.
I'd like to thank Mike Pittman for putting you on a good mood. Proven mood.
Kevin, you want to state your name and address?
Sure. I was waiting for Brooke to start, but that's quite all right. Kevin Watkins, currently 413 Baltimore Street.
Brooke?
This circa 1890 contributing gable front home owned by Dr. Kevin Watkins is zoned historic district residential. The applicant is requesting to add a second-story addition on the north rear extent of the home, build steps down the front of the porch instead of the current side location, add 2 clerestory windows on the west side, install a single window in the kitchen on the west side, include a window in the west wall of the second floor addition, remove the rear brick chimney, install 2 windows on the northern wall of the rear addition, and remove 2 windows on the north wall of the first floor. He is also requesting to build a 20-foot by 30-foot garage with a loft and a covered catwalk between the garage and the back door of the home. The primary garage opening will face Poplar Street, but the dormer will face the north. He has received staff approval to remove the asbestos siding and replace with the original clapboard siding. And this is the picture of the front of the home currently. Just to get a very brief history of the home, as I said, it was constructed in 1890. It was one of the earliest documented mail order homes built in the United States, as far as the time period of catalog homes. Flour mill owner George Trout built the home and 5 adjacent homes as investment properties. He ordered the homes through Columbus, Indiana architect C.F. Sparrow, from a Chicago maker of mail order homes, later popularized by Sears and Montgomery Ward. It was originally shipped in sections to rail by Madison for reassembly. And several of these homes in that area have been rehabilitated. This project, as proposed, would rehabilitate the home to its original catalog design, but also include options that were available at the time but not chosen by the original builder. And I will let Dr. Watkins take over at this time to go through the rest of the slides.
Thanks, Brooke. I was going to go through some history with characters and voices and a whole lot more dramatic character. If any of you know me, you would understand that, but Brooke got that part. So, 1890s, of course, Mr. Trout brought this here. Point of just conversation, maybe, but in context of contributing, you suggest that contributing nature can be taken away from structure based on non-original materials being added on subsequent rehabilitations. This home has gone through a number of rehabilitations and additional materials, more modern materials, if you will. Originally, clapboard panels were shipped, flat panels, and assembled on location. Subsequently, probably late 20s, early 30s, somebody decided asbestos shingle would be a better exterior for a number of reasons: insulation, fire protection, maintenance, etc. But those were added as an addition, not original materials. Also, the front porch originally would have been wood porch with posts and balusters and rails, and now it's a concrete porch, and it has brick railing across the front, which of course was probably added late 40s, early 50s. Again, non-original structure. The entire kitchen addition on the back is exterior of the original house. The original house would have been just a gable front, 7-room house without the addition on the back. I have poked a hole through the dining room wall into what will be the kitchen, and it is in fact an original exterior wall, and so that is a subsequent addition. So just in context of original materials, the fireplace on the back, the chimney on the back is not original. The 2 windows on the back also not original structures. So things we may be mentioning today: restoration, preservation, renovation. Restoration, of course, implies that we're restoring it to its original either structure or restoring it to something that is original to the character of the architectural style. Not necessarily verbatim what was originally built there, but rather the original character of the building. Preservation implies that we are preserving a home that would otherwise fall into decay, using it for modern purposes and making it a habitable home for generations to come. Renovation would imply that we are changing, improving, making things new, renewing again. All of these things brought together, of course, implies stewardship, which is what I want to be to this home. I want to maintain its original character in the neighborhood. Part of the appeal to me in buying this structure, I've driven by these houses for years and just thought, man, those are so cool, that's really neat. I, like everybody else, those are Sears houses. Well, they're not Sears houses, in fact, but they are catalog homes. I really like them. I think it's an important block, as the other 3 corners are currently owned by HMI, and it's an important block to maintain the character of the neighborhood and preserve an important historical structure in our community. So those are my intentions going forward. If we could go maybe to, they were not Aladdin homes, it's okay, we'll just go through these one at a time, it's fine. They were not Aladdin homes, they were not Sears homes. I have found several catalogs from Chicago mail order houses in the late 1890s, 1900s, all of them very similar in nature. They provided a number of different models of homes. They provided features that you could add to your models, different entrances, different porches and porticos, different interior arrangements in some cases, and in many cases different window arrangements and door arrangements. So those things were all original to the catalogs, and I believe Mr. Troe had in his mind he was buying them all 6, building them all 6 at one time, either as investment property to sell or as rental property for, I think he owned a lumber yard there and several other businesses, but for his employees. And so he was keeping things on a Spartan level, I think, but certainly some features could have been added to them had they wanted, and it would be my hope and intention to restore those features that would have been available on the original home for my use. Starting on the front porch, first thing you might notice, no stairs up the front, and that brick lattice work, again, probably put on in the 40s or 50s. There's a ton of them around Madison just like that. Not original to the home. My interest would be, number 1, to restore the original look of the home. Number 2, on the picture on the right, you see my steps down into a gutter. Doesn't look like it would be handicapped accessible by anybody. Probably not built to code. I would bet not original to the home either. My intention would be, as at least 2 of the other Troe houses on that block are, to have a front entry, staircase up the front. That's my wonderful artwork, thank you very much. I'm working on it. But just to show the orientation, maybe not the exact specifics. Of interest, down West 2nd Street, the house on the left currently has a similar type arrangement. The one on the right is from one of the original catalogs, actually an Aladdin home. Very similar gable front home, very similar front porches. Also with the brick pilings, I guess, for the porches. I don't think that was original. And in fact, the house next to it at 220 West 2nd, somebody's calling me, I don't want to answer it now. That's my mom, she's wishing me luck. The 220 West 2nd, they did take off the asbestos shingle off the house, and you can see the original panels that were shipped, probably about 24 inches by about 8 feet. So 2 feet by 8 foot panels. Each of those panels is a clapboard style, but then framed in all the way around it. Those were pre-made and shipped to be assembled that way. On the front porch, where they took off the asbestos shingle at 220, there is a silhouette of an original post in the paint, in the finish on the front of that. I believe that we can draw from that silhouette that there was an original turned post there. About a 6-inch turned post was the original porch, wood post. So my intention would be to ask my neighbor if I could go and sketch it and have those redone the way the originals would have been. So I would like to return it, not unlike the one on the left there. I've got a dozen or more pictures of different houses around town with similar architectural style. I think Victorian folk, I think is what you all call it, or gable front for sure, but anyway, that would be compatible with the style of the building. So if we can move on to the next slide then. This is the side of the house as it appears right now, and then a back angle of the house, I believe, looking at it maybe from Mr. McWilliams' driveway. But these are the proposed changes I would like to make to the side of the house. Number 1, and this has already been staff approved, remove the asbestos shingle and return it to its clapboard. I did not indicate the panels on there, but anyway, to return it to its original, back up there just a second, Brooke, for me, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. Return the panels to their original. I hope they're all in good shape based on the house next door that they did the same thing to. I think that they will be. They were put on at the same time. The addition on the rear, again, by the way, not an original feature of the house. The house ended there where the basic square of the house is, and that shed roof on the back was added for a kitchen later on. So I would be taking that up, and if you would back up just one more for me for just a minute. Back up, there we go. The second picture on the right there shows my house on the corner and 220. 220 was previously approved to have that second floor addition put on the back. They did a fabulous job of it. Also clapboard siding, hardy board, new siding on top of that, which would be my intention to use the hardy board. I want to take that a step further and actually put the vertical stripping in there so it mimics the original panels a little more. They just put clapboard horizontal siding there. Also, the house next door did not put any trim work around the windows. Those windows are very plainly framed in. My intention would be to replace the trim or put reproduction trim that matches the trim of all the exposed windows on the other side of the building. So hopefully to restore that style of trim to the back of the house as well. Okay, now we can move forward one here. Okay, that's good. Yes.
This here actually is just a continuation of your roof, right? There's no divider or no step in or anything of the roof, right?
Of the roof line?
Yep. Because it looks like kind
The
of
one next door, yeah, it's hard. That's just my bad artwork.
Well, I just wasn't
But,
sure.
But no, it should be a seamless continuation of the roof up there. That is
Okay.
correct.
On the side as well? Or does it set back, the new addition?
The new addition sets just, well, okay. If I look at the one next door, there is a slight inset on it. My intention would be to match up the exterior walls and the roof lines so they are seamless, more or less, Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah. So other additions that were mentioned by Brooke in the opening, the two windows to the front of the building, clerestory windows that I would be on either side of the fireplace. I'll show you some more detail of those from the inside in a minute and a little more description. The addition on the back, basically, we want that to be all one seamless addition. We're going to take it down to the original, whatever is underneath that, and I'm assuming it's clapboard, but not the original panels, on the first floor of that back section. So I will need to add new window there. That's the location, and I'll show you the floor plan here in just a second, of the kitchen, which makes much more sense as opposed to how the kitchen is placed right now. The second floor would be new construction, so that's the only real window that I'm replacing per se. The other 3 windows, in fact 4 windows, that I'm putting on the house are on new addition part in the back. So for your consideration there. The final thing I'd like to, and again, these were features in the original catalogs on these gable front windows, were side entries on many of these. Basically, I want to take the 2 windows that exist there now, extend them down basically about 18 inches. No, I'm sorry, it's 14 inches from where they exist now. Frame them in exactly as the windows are there now with the same pediments and architectural additions there. And then build a little stoop. That'll be my dining room. That'll give me access to my side yard for entertaining or whatever, but a little stoop step down there to the outside as well. So we move forward then. So that doesn't help me much. I don't think that one might help a little bit more. So the porch to your right out the front, you see my front steps going down. You enter the front door there. If I go to the left as I enter the front door, at the bottom of your view on the right, that's the living room with the fireplace. The dining room is the next room in, which is where I would want to add. I put this in here so you could see where I was adding windows. If you don't mind, I'll step over here just a second because I don't have a pointer. But these 2 little clerestory windows that are kind of high set in the wall. I'll show you some other pictures. These would be the little French doors. This is where my kitchen cabinet and kitchen sink basically, so that'd be the one window off that kitchen on that side. I just put the interior layout, not that that's in your purview per se, but I put it there just so you can see the reason that I'm adding or wanting to add those windows. So we can move forward then. These are some images from catalogs of similar styled homes, fireplaces with built-in bookshelves, and those clerestory windows. Those windows would be custom-built windows, all wood frame windows, and I'm actually consigning some stained glass work to put in those because that would look cool, right? So, so go forward, yes. These are from the original catalog. These were features that were built in these homes originally. Some of them did. They were a little more extravagant features. I think, again, Mr. Tro was not looking for extravagance in these. The kits he bought were about $870 a piece. So anyway, that's the concept behind those. And forward again. The picture on the left, again, from original catalogs, and I'll tell you, these catalogs were after 1900. They were not 1890 catalog, but still, similar styled homes with side features, some with porticos, some with add-ons, but the side entry is what's of interest to me there. Those were potentially original structures and would be consistent with the style of the home. Okay? This is my back lot facing Poplar Street. This is the proposed site of my garage. You can go forward one slide. This shows the setbacks for the garage. So of interest, I have spoken with Steve, my neighbor, Steve Matthews, and I knew that he had put some concerns in there, and we walked out there in the yard and just looked at it. His concern was primarily from his front porch. If he's sitting on his front porch, the 20 by 30 foot garage, in order to maintain the setbacks on the east side, which is on the bottom of your picture there, in order to maintain the east setback, the 30-foot extension towards Poplar Street sticks out about 4 feet past the front of his house. So he felt like he's sitting on his front porch, he's looking down the street towards the street scenery, the river, down towards the river. It partially obstructed his view. I certainly understand that. In the interest of being a good neighbor, I would like to actually amend that. And I've talked to my contractor about making it a 21 foot, so 26 foot, 4 feet shorter than it was. So 20 feet by 26 feet would be the dimension of the garage. That puts the garage in the same line as the 3 other Tro cottages headed up Poplar Street. So I think it would make it look in a nice, smooth row of houses, basically. It's going to be designed in that same gable front design. You can go forward one, Brooke, there. Thank you. Again, my architectural renderings. Thank you very much. So same gable front design, same pitch. It will have a little loft space on the second floor. That's a 16-foot door across the front, just a single door. In a, I don't know, I put the little crosshatch doors on there because they fit the style I look, but we'll make those look nice. But they're just an overhead door in that style. Also, the architectural pediments at the peak of the roof. I'd like to repeat those because they're consistent with the other houses there and therefore would kind of fall in line with the existing architecture of the neighborhood.
Kevin, how tall is your garage in relationship to your neighbor Steve?
22 feet. It's 10 feet at the first floor and 12 feet above that.
Yeah, and his is,
Oh gosh.
his is larger, right?
His home is much larger.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In the
I thought
same
it was.
dimensions as yours, I'm guessing? Height-wise?
Height-wise, no.
No?
Mine will not be as tall as the houses there.
No, I meant your house is probably the same height.
Oh, it's exactly the same height as his, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Ken, does that sound right to you?
Yes, no, you're spot on.
I mean, you've got a better view of it from over there, so
You know, and I mentioned earlier, Steve would really appreciate that reduction.
yeah, we
And
talked
he-
about it, and I said,
He's a porch guy.
yeah,
He's
I
out-
said, I went and sat on his porch, and I said, I see your point. So we went and walked it off there and moved the markers back. And I said, what if it was here? And he was like, oh, that'd be perfect, you know, it wouldn't bother me at all. And I was like, okay. So, he kind of indicated he thought he'd be here at the meeting, but maybe not. It's all right. Obviously, I do want to be a good neighbor and make sure that I wouldn't want somebody to build that in front of my house, so I get it. Okay, we can move on to the next one, I guess. This is a similar garage built, I think, over on Elm Street, if I'm not mistaken, Elm at 3rd, and similar style, opening up to the side of the house and set back a little bit from the street. So I think it's appropriate in the community and neighborhood. You guys have all got all kinds of comparable garages approved, and I'll tell you what, this board has approved some actually pretty crappy garages in town. This one will be the next one, I
Thank you.
promise. Not you all in particular, but in the past. So we want to make it look pretty nice there, and I think it'll fit just fine. I did not submit these pictures. These are Brooke's pictures, I guess. Just some architectural renderings. Thomas, maybe to answer your question there, the elevation from the side just shows the consistency of the roof, raised roof area, or the extended roof area. It will be a consistent, you know, it's not going to be distinguishable necessarily as an addition. So. And that's the overhead of the garage. It does show a little dormer out to the side for the loft area. Oh, it also shows on the top edge of the garage, the little catwalk. It's just a little covered area in between my back door and the man door on the side of the garage, just access point. All that stuff, quite honestly, is going to be in a little 4-foot walkway in between the garage and not really apparent to passersby at all. So just a connection. And finally, the back of the house, again, the second floor addition that we put on there. I want to maintain all the architectural pediments. The house next door really did not. They built it out and it's just completely plain in the rear. Maybe the rear doesn't matter that much, but to me it does. I'm going to put the same windows. By the way, the windows we've chosen are sun, aluminum clad, wood windows, and they would be in the same window style as the other windows, and again, reproduce the trim to match the other windows on the house. Of interest on the bottom floor there, that white chimney, not original structure, not attached to anything there, serves no purpose. I'd just like to knock it down and be done with it. Please and thank you. Those two windows, obviously the back door there on the left, the window in the middle is a pretty original, or a pretty new window. The other one is at least trimmed out in original style, but again, that was an addition probably a good 20 years after the original structure was built. So, not sure if that makes it completely off limits to me or off limits, whatever. But the, I guess my point in this is in context of restoration, we are restoring the home to its original character, trying to add some appeal to it. I don't think we've done anything that would have been out of context with the architectural style of the home. And I believe in the side views of the home, the only, the primary facade, of course, is the front, which I'm doing nothing with except fixing the porch. And the secondary facade on the Poplar Street side, I do want to add a few windows. They would add light, appeal, and a little bit of architectural balance to the home that doesn't really exist. It's a little bit rear heavy, just the way I look at it. But I believe they would, it would be a more aesthetically pleasing visual on that side of the house. I think that's all, unless you'll obviously have some questions for me.
The board have any questions?
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
So, thanks for coming, and once again, mea culpa that we chatted when your project was already listed. But we get lots of emails, and I got one from Indiana Landmarks. And the board may have seen this.
They went away, but
Yeah.
I saw it before.
But at the bottom, very last clause is, and the Joey's talk, Indiana Landmarks we talked about, and it's owned by HMI, and will be protected by an exterior preservation easement that attaches to the deed.
that is correct.
Yeah.
I have a
So-
protective covenant with HMI. John and I have actually been over there a couple of times. Obviously, his office is straight across the street from us as well. John and I walked through there a couple weeks ago, and in order for me to meet their expectations, I did present application to them as well. John was very pleased with all the changes we made, and was thought that they would all add and contribute to the aesthetic of the home. Obviously, he's pretty learned in restoration and
So if you pass it,
Preservation.
the easement to me reads you can't touch anything unless you have the specific approval from John. And I assume that would be attached to the deed also.
that is. It doesn't say I can't touch anything. It says I need to keep it inside the character of the home. And that is the intention, and John felt like all the changes that we were proposing were within the character of the structure and architectural style.
Okay, I read it a little differently, obviously,
Okay,
the
Ken-
bullet C.
You talked with the applicant while a application was filed, which is a conflict of interest.
Yes, I know.
So I'm pretty sure our attorney would advise you to recuse yourself from
But he didn't.
comments.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean,
He's not here, would you like him to call in?
No, look up the email.
I have no issue with Ken as far as this goes. I don't believe, I mean, it's not my business maybe.
No, so that's, I agree with some things, don't agree with others. God bless you for trying.
So Kevin, did I hear you correctly that he has signed off on the changes that you want?
So I haven't gotten their sign back. They have some board members out of town. We've been going back and forth. He has my submission. I put in an original submission back in March. They had reviewed that, but they wanted some additional details, specifically on materials. Number one, hardy board siding, returning it to its original style, and those things. The aluminum clad wood windows, they were okay. They wanted spec sheets on those, and so I gave them spec sheets on the doors and windows that we were asking for. And I discussed at length, and in fact, he is the one that showed me the silhouette on the front of the building next door to suggest the wood
Columns.
columns. Thank you. So yes, I do not have a signed reply from them.
Did he give you a time frame that we can kind of work with? A month?
He indicated that his board would be able to review these things this week.
Okay.
I thought last week, but he texted me on Friday and said he wasn't going to be able to get it
Okay.
together. So neither here nor there.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess from my perspective, I would like to see us be able to hear this application tonight and take a vote and give Kevin the go-ahead if need be, from our perspective, so you don't have to get your easement, because that's gonna be a condition of the approval of that, I'm sure. Would that work? I think that would work. Does that work for you, Kevin?
I mean, I can't do anything to it until John signs off on it either,
That's correct.
as on my deed. And so I think that restricted covenant still maintains some precedent. I mean,
Yeah, the agreement between him and HMI is not a concern of this board, that's a private matter.
Okay.
I agree. Being as a non-lawyer, I agree.
I am working on getting our attorney on the phone.
Hey, Kevin, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I haven't been on this board long, but I've been at a number of these meetings in the past, standing where you have, and have sat in the audience seeing many different homes and structures come up here. And I can't think of when I've seen a more well thought out or comprehensive presentation that you've made. The extent that you've gone to try to honor the guidelines architects. Everything I've heard you say is like, well, I'm gonna do this because it's the right thing to do. So I've been incredibly impressed with your presentation, the thoroughness, and I'm excited for you with what you're doing with this property. Also very impressed with the fact that you worked with your neighbor, and you guys worked that out, and so you sat on the porch, and away you go. Win-win was achieved. So thank you for just a really, really thorough and thoughtful presentation.
Yeah. For the record, for the board, Ken and I hung out in the alley between our homes and discussed it as neighbors, not in the context of his position on this board. You know, he rendered no advice, consent, or disapproval on anything. It was simply, we were discussing what I was going to do with my house as a neighbor. I personally don't have any objection to Ken being on this. That's not my business, and I understand legality of things.
I'm
Apologize if I
gonna
put
pause
you
the
in that
meeting
position.
for a second. Ken, do you mind stepping out with me just for a second to talk? All right, meeting is back in order. So this time I'm gonna continue to ask more questions from the board. Ken, do you wanna do that now? Or?
No, do it when vote.
No, you need to do it now.
Yeah.
Okay, I've recused myself from the rest of the conversation.
Can you just sit up here or not? Is that okay?
As long as he doesn't speak.
Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, any other questions or comments from the board?
Kevin, I wanted a point of clarification on the front porch. A lot of the porches that we looked at, they were wooden, and your current porch is cement. Are you proposing to take that out and to do, are you gonna leave the?
I really don't want to take the cement out. That's a monumental undertaking as well. What I would like to do is dress it with wood planking on the surface of the front. Just bulldoze wood planking off the front, and same as the steps coming down.
Okay.
And then wood rail and balusters.
Okay. Your stoop coming out of the dining room, what are you proposing, the material for that?
Just a step down, that would probably be wood frame.
Okay.
And part of the reason is there's an entry to the cellar right there by that window, and so I need to manufacture something where I could actually lift that up and get to the cellar if necessary for mechanical, so that's it. And that wouldn't be covered or anything, I mean, no awning or anything like that.
Right.
It's simply a step down, basically.
Right.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Just to address something really quick, Ken has recused himself just because of some possible conflicts of interest. It doesn't mean that there are conflicts of interest, but there are possible conflicts of interest that may have come up, and so he's been kind enough to do that, just to make sure that no one from the public can think otherwise in this situation. So Any questions or comments from the public?
I did want to make sure that every board member got a copy of the two letters from the neighbors that were public comment. Josh, if you'd like me to read those, I can.
Yes,
or-
if you could.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me grab those real quick. All right, the first letter is from Michelle Lappy Fletcher. She resides at 314 Poplar, so is a neighbor. She wanted to support another neighbor, Mr. Matthews, which I'll read his letter next, concerned regarding the size of the garage and the issue it would cause in street parking along Poplar. She thinks the garage will disrupt the integrity of the neighborhood. She also stated, I support the proposed changes on the home, but I wish the garage was much smaller and scaled down from the proposed garage. The design is nice, but the size makes it akin to a house, not a garage. The parking issue that would be created by this proposed garage, which will take up 2 to 3 street-side parking spots, would cause congestion and loss to an area already challenged by a lack of adequate parking. That letter was received April 7th. And then we have one from Steve Matthews, a neighbor residing on 310 Poplar Street, on April 1st. His states, Mr. Matthews' primary concern is the garage due to size and massing, and very likely potential of parking complications, given the fact off-street parking is the primary parking method in this area. There are rentals in the close proximity that also use the same residential parking spaces along Poplar and West 2nd Streets in this particular area. Additionally, the 2-story proposed garage would block current tree and cityscape views. Mr. Matthews is concerned this large of a garage would not fit in the neighborhood and would obstruct other neighborhood views and vistas. It would be out of character.
If I could address those?
April 1st.
Yes, you can address them.
So first, I'd like to say that the easement allowed on the curb for my driveway entering onto Poplar Street is 12 feet, about the length of less than 1 car. So that would take up 1 car. I would say also, I have 2 vehicles. I also have a boat trailer. I'm not going to bring and park those all up and down the street. But if I were not creating off-street parking in my garage, I would be parking 2 vehicles on the street, creating more chaos and confusion. I'm creating a way to get off the street. I believe since the design of the home fits in with the cottages in that section that were all built at one time, I really don't think it takes away anything from the aesthetic inside the context of our yard. And it does fit in the HDBR guidelines in that it is to the rear of the home, it is diminutive to the primary house, it is fits the guideline to the letter, I think. Finally, I'd just like to say that yes, with concern to the size of the front and the impairment that it would cause on their visual line of sight, I did request the alterations to accommodate that. So I hope that would satisfy my neighbors. Good fences and good communication make for good neighbors.
All right. Any other public comments? All right, hearing none. Mike, would you like to start us off on findings of fact?
Yes, and I hope not to take as long as Kevin did. Kevin mentioned the chimney was not original to the house, the residential guidelines, page 30. I can't. 38, thank you. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. The chimney will be removed. Is that right, Kevin? Am I correct?
It would be.
Now, for your fireplace in the other room, you could have a,
No, there's actually 2 other chimneys up on the roof. The primary one is for fireplaces on the 1st and 2nd floor in the living room and the upstairs bedroom. The chimney on the back is not attached to anything.
Okay. You're retaining the original chimneys?
Yes.
Garage is now outbuildings, as Kevin mentioned earlier, it is to the rear, it does meet the guideline. has a two-story house, so he's, that is allowed by ordinances. That's an ordinance, not a guideline. And it will be, very much in the character of the neighborhood.
Did you want to go next?
Yeah. Windows, he's using metal clad wood windows, which again, we approve. He's making considerable effort to make sure those windows are meeting the character of the neighborhood and the character of the home as it was built. Porch columns and railings. I don't know who that salesman was on the brick porches, but I applaud you for putting the
That was good, man.
That guy really did a job on this town. But I agree with you that that will look much better than what's currently there. With your demonstration and your pictures from the catalogs, it also shows that was very typical of that style home. New construction additions, again, it's in the rear of the home, per our residential guidelines. You're taking considerable efforts to meet the character of the neighborhood as far as what it looks like on the roofs and the design and the, what's accoutrements a good word for that? Or the, I'm not sure, is that word? Building inspector said yes, so okay. And I think that the length you're going to with the characteristics you're adding into your addition will be of benefit to the area. So I think everyone's going to like that. Doors and entrances, same thing. Man, you stained glass, you're a glutton for punishment. I applaud you for doing that too. That's great. Doors, again, that they are very important to homes and entrances. And with you moving the entrance to the front, I think it's going to match the other two homes right there a lot better than what's currently on the side. Plus, you won't break your ankle. That's it.
Jared?
I absolutely agree with those findings.
All right. Tom?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
And I too agree for the same reasons. I would tell you that, getting a Sears home at that time would have been a pretty big deal. So it wasn't, even though today we may not think of that, but in that time period it would have been a pretty big deal to be getting a Sears home. So,
It's possible it's Wells Fargo. They were making homes in the 1880s, 1890s and sending them out, but I couldn't find any documentation.
because even my home, I believe, was they were talking about it. They were stick homes or
Very
pre-built
old,
homes that they were
Latin
bringing in.
budget.
Yeah. So, all right, with that, I will accept the motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Kevin Watkins. Keep track of this, make sure I get it all in, okay, Brooke? To add a second story on the addition on the north elevation, to build steps in the front of the porch instead of the side, to add 2 clerestory windows on the west side, add 1 single window on the west side in the kitchen, and 2, I'm sorry, is it a sliding door or French door?
They're French door.
Okay. And French door to replace the 2 dining room windows on the west side. And let's see, double hung window, 2 double hung windows in the new addition on the north side. Does that capture it?
Yes, but a failure on my part perhaps and didn't put it in there. There's actually a 3rd window, but it's on the east side of the 2nd story addition. It's facing the adjacent house.
Okay. It's
I
part
mean,
of the addition though,
It
right?
is part of the addition. It's the
Okay.
same style window, basically,
Yeah.
not visible from the street by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
Just so me and my neighbor can talk.
Remove the accessory brick chimney in the back of the house, which has really no architectural value. Remove 2 windows facing north. Build a 20 by 26 foot garage with loft facing Poplar Street, with dormer facing the north. Build a covered walkway between the garage and the rear of the house. And this property is located at 222 West 2nd Street.
Good deal. Second?
I'll second.
Josh Wolberg,
Approved.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All you'll receive your COA in the mail, and as long as you get your proper building permits, you can begin.
You don't loan money, do you?
Scenic.
It's so hard. Yes. Okay, thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
I
you,
apologize for your confusion.
It's all right, we appreciate it, thank you. All right, our next application is 801 East Main Street. I don't think we have an applicant here for it. I don't see Justin. Do you guys want to move to next meeting?
Move his up
Do it.
and try to get a hold of him.
Yep, okay. All right, we'll go to the next application. It's 901 West First Street. You would just state your name and address for us.
Yep, my name's Rodney Pettit. I'm the proposed contractor for 901 West First Street.
All right, thanks, Rob. Brooke?
The circa 1880 non-contributing gable front home owned by Tom and Barbara McPherson is zoned historic district residential. The applicants are requesting to replace the existing deck with a new deck that will be larger and go the full length of the home, measuring 28 foot by 16 foot, and to install 2 9-foot vinyl sliding glass doors on the rear of the home. They have received a staff-approved COA to replace the existing vinyl siding with LP Smart siding. And you can see the pictures of the home currently with the current deck. This is a rendering plan showing the proposed configuration of the deck and stairs. And then these pictures, the one on the left shows the deck extending out further, the proposed extension with the stairs. And the pictures to the right also shows the 2 vinyl, where they're proposing to place the 2 vinyl sliding glass doors. The picture of the left is an example of the doors that they're proposing to use. The picture to the right shows the neighbor's door that is identical to what they are proposing. And those are all the slides I have.
Would you like to add anything?
Sure. Yeah, the customer's wanting to, existing is vinyl siding, vinyl windows, vinyl doors. They just wanted to add larger glass, pretty much the whole rear of the home, to be able to look over the river and increase the size of the deck to make it more usable. You can tell the deck's pretty rough shape now. I will say the artwork's getting a lot worse as the night goes on too. I actually have a drafting design degree, so that's pretty sad. But no, really just extending the deck size out off the rear of the property and fixing it in some pretty rough shape. And the homeowner does want to do quite a bit of renovation, interior and exterior. And LP Smart siding, I'm pretty sure she's going to go with that to get rid of the vinyl. Existing windows that are vinyl and steel doors, not really historical, so we'd like to stay with vinyl. Triple sliders to prevent, I think the flat ones would, cost-wise, would probably really cripple the project. I think that's all I have to say for most.
Siding on the application.
Siding was reviewed by staff.
Okay, so that was already approved? by
Yes.
staff. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure.
Vinyl to LP.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
Well, this marks the 3rd house on that block, Rodney, so
Yeah.
you guys
I
are
know
on the
that.
roll. But no, I think it's gonna be fabulous changes. And perfect lot, perfect position to those new ones that Brian's doing across the street.
Are you replacing I guess that would be the east side that leads from the front to the back and then adding the new deck on the
Yes.
back of the house?
Yes, so that'll stay, the walkway around the front will stay pretty much an identical size. And we will be replacing the front deck also.
Okay.
We would like to extend it to, we're in the variance meeting in a few weeks, but we'd like to extend it to the full length of the house, front and back. So it's the size of the property, or size of the house, I'm sorry.
Would the owner consider using anything other than vinyl sliding doors, metal or aluminum clad or wood?
Well, I mean, I think they would consider, but with the, I mean, they're trying to redo the whole property and improve it. And I think the cost of those is gonna really hinder them from being able to do what they wanna do and do the improvements. So currently it's a rental. I'm afraid if it gets too cost prohibitive, they're gonna, you know, leave it as a rental and not do the complete upgrade for themselves like they wanna do, is what I kinda gathered from the homeowner.
Are they checked into a pace grant?
They are, we're applying for that, for the smart siding. I don't know if it's a possibility we could do that for the clad doors.
Would that be included into the PACE grant?
Sorry, I was talking with Brian about variance, so I didn't hear the question.
So my question was, I asked if the owner would consider using a different material other than vinyl for the 2 doors in the back of the house. And I asked if he if the owner had applied for a PACE grant. He said yes, but it was just for the LP siding.
Yeah, they could add it, but if I'm remembering, I think that they're maxed out on the PACE grant, so it wouldn't benefit them.
Okay.
Those existing windows and door in the back, are those vinyl? as well?
Yes, yeah, they're vinyl windows. I think it's a steel door with vinyl, you know,
So
trim.
you're really not changing material then on
No.
the. And if we can get rid of that much vinyl, I think it's
Yeah.
a good sacrifice for the board to make.
Yeah.
That's a personal opinion, by the way.
Yeah. What's a non-contributing property? We've been talking about that a lot tonight. Does that play a role in it? I don't know.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I have a question, because this issue comes up on quite a few projects. And you're a contractor, can you just give me a rough idea of the cost difference between a vinyl door that we're looking at and what a metal door would be?
Typically, on a standard window or door, you're 3 to 4 times the price. And on a triple slider, it's maybe, it's at least that, probably, maybe more on the sliding
So
door.
give me an
type
idea of
price.
what the cost of the vinyl window sliding door would be versus the metal.
Like a vinyl window might cost you a few $100, you know, $250 depending on the size, and a clad window could cost you as much as $800-900.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, any questions, comments from the audience?
Josh. This is
Right.
the third application that's in the floodplain
I also
also,
thought
and
maybe-
Mr. Pettit also understands that, knows that, and he knows the process. And again, as discussed before, deck structures, because they're open below, pretty straightforward process to get there.
Okay,
So,
thanks, Brian. All right, so hearing none.
Can I have one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, on the deck, and she has not decided this for sure, but I figured I better bring it up in case we can approve it tonight or we can. But if she builds a roof line over the deck area, if we carry the same roof line, I'd like to get that approved also, if we can do that tonight. If I didn't mess myself up by not writing it in here, but that has come up that she may want to cover that back deck.
So that's an awning then.
Or porch, or.
Is it cut?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
a
same
porch.
thing Mike had on his.
Is this something that he could take later for staff approval?
No.
No?
Are you talking about putting a roof over it, or are you talking?
Yes.
Like the same?
Same concept Mike had on his drawings, just carry the same roof line out over the deck. Would be what it would be.
That's a weird roof line.
Yeah,
That's, you do the exact same.
yeah, we could.
Would you want to?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, we might be able to do just a partial of the gable of the top, so she has partial coverage.
I was gonna say with the west sun, you're cooking.
Yeah.
They'll be getting that full west sun.
It's, for me, it's hard to approve without seeing, or what are the dimensions and what are you doing? Is it-
Yeah.
It can always be something you can come back and
That's fine. I mean,
and get if she wants to do that after the fact or something, because you can always add it after, right? Or is it better? Probably it's better to add it as you're doing it
yeah, for structure.
because of the
Posts.
posts.
That's all right. It's gonna come up after I apply for it, so we'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds good.
I want her to get what she wants, and I can see why they want to cover that. But
Josh, what if he did the roof, same roof line he's got there, but carried on down on the west side to where it matched the roof line, in other words, on the east side. That would be doable, wouldn't it?
I mean, straight going straight across?
No, going straight down. Let's see how he's got the peak there.
Yeah.
Just take that on down.
Need a drawing.
Yeah, I can wait on that, it's fine.
Need a drawing.
Yeah, I'd rather see a drawing. I mean, I know what you're wanting, but
It's fine.
just so we can be
It is what it
totally
is, it's fine.
clear, crystal clear, okay.
So you do have an option, since he wants to add it, to partially approve or deny an application and then partially extend so that they could automatically get on the next agenda and he could provide drawings in the meantime.
Is that something you would want to do?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. All right, so, with that, we'll work toward the partial approval of this based on what we do have now, and then, extending the application, for further additions later. So Ken, do you wanna start us off with findings of fact?
Yes, it will.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Rod. So for the project at 901 West First Street, for new constructed decks, we go to residential guideline, page 64, and we scored one of them, Rodney, that decks on the side of the building are acceptable, as long as they're not readily visible from the street. So you're right on the street, so you're never gonna avoid that. And then doors and entrances, residential guidelines, page 39 to 42. You're not gonna hit any of them, but what you brought it up earlier, Rodney, this is a non-contributing home. It's all vinyl now, up and down that street, it's all vinyl on the new side and on West First, so I have no problem with what you're doing at that property.
Mike,
I agree for the same reason.
Jared,
Agreed.
Tom,
I disagree.
Owen?
I disagree because vinyl is specifically prohibited by the guidelines. Is that, Tom, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, if we could just get some concession on that, the project would be a go for me. I mean, I think it's a great project. It's just also, that house is really, really visible. And if we have a chance to improve those openings, I would like to see the owner go ahead and step up to that. The LP siding is gonna be great, that's a great addition. It's just a highly, highly visible property.
And although that's, true, I will say that, there is material there that's already vinyl, and, in our guidelines, we've, allowed that based upon the material that is already there. So only for that reason, would I be okay with it. So with that, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the project at 901 West First Street as a partial approval, and request the applicant come back to the next meeting for the approval for the change in the roof on the deck. That you know.
What are you approving?
Well, I'm approving the doors, the vinyl sliding doors, as well as the decks. You've already approved the siding, so.
I second.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Thomas Stark,
Disapprove.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approve.
Mike Pittman.
Approved.
So Rodney, with that, you will receive your certificate of appropriateness, or the homeowner will.
Okay.
And of course, as long as the building permits are in order, you can begin
Okay, thank you.
construction.
And then,
Again, that's a partial approval for what we've heard tonight.
Right.
That does not
Include
approve
a
any
roof.
roof on, yeah.
okay, so if they decide not to do a roof, I don't need to come back, I mean, we'll just.
Just let the office know.
Okay.
Yeah, let the office know, and if they do want to do the roof, then just submit the drawings to them so that we have them before our next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. be able to get a hold of Justin?
He did not answer, so hopefully he either listens to his messages or shows up for the end of the meeting.
Okay, all right. We'll move over on to 829 West Main Street.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you would state your name and address for us.
Ronald Frazee, 512 East Main Street, Unit 2.
All right, thank you. Brooke?
This contributing circa 1870 Italian building, zoned local business, is owned by Ronald Frazee. Mr. Frazee is requesting to build a capitol above the entry door that will project out 16 inches. He will add crown molding, corbels, and a flat roof that will be painted to match the trim. As proposed, this capitol would completely cover the existing transom above the door. You can see the picture on the left is the building currently. The picture on the right is an example of the capitol he would like to build. And these are two more close-ups of essentially the same thing. Those are all pictures.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, that will be a main entry door for the new unit, and I feel like it needs some weather protection. And also, I'm in love with the piece of stone that's existing above all the windows, so therefore I don't want to raise it. I actually did, I've got that transom, I bought a new one, and I didn't put it in. Would prefer to do something like that and keep a nice straight line below the stone lines, so it's clean and looks like it belongs. I think if we raise that up and keep the transom, it's just gonna look out of place, and I wouldn't do that, so. And it's gonna be pretty much, it'd be in keeping with the style and trimmed out very nicely and so forth, and the new door unit and all that will blend.
Well, you're doing a great job there, I will tell you. Just
Oh.
that's my personal opinion of it, but I think you're doing a great job in watching it, you know, as we go down Main Street, go down, drive by it every day, so.
Good,
He
thank you.
deserves applause.
Huh?
He deserves a standing ovation.
Yeah, he does, that was a big problem.
And we appreciate you too. Because you looked at you.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, any questions, comments from the audience? With that, we'll go to findings of fact. Jerry, you want to start us off, findings of fact?
Absolutely. Pages 31 through 33, we're replacing, as we stated here, the capitol above the entry door, and it will completely cover it. It's appropriate to the building, and it's consistent with the guidelines, so it's completely conforming.
Okay. Tom?
Well, I can't quite say that I believe that it's completely conforming, but I understand what you're saying, and I do see that straight line across with the stone, so I would agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
Well, likewise, I think technically it probably is violating part of the guidelines that we don't normally like to cover a transom if it exists. But looking at what you're planning, to me, it seems like this is a big upgrade of that door. I think it'll look a lot better than what was originally there. And so I think this is why we call them guidelines, right? They're not. This is one we want to have a little wiggle room there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ken?
I agree, same reason.
Mike?
I agree, same reasons.
And I too agree for the same reasons. I think it's gonna make it more of a grand entrance. I think what you have proposed looks really nice, and Owen, you said that perfectly, so. That, I'll accept the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that at the property 829 West Main Street, owned by Ronald Frazee, that the request to build the capitol above the entry door to project out 16 feet at the crown molding, the corbels.
Inches.
16 feet.
Inches.
Inches, sorry about
Now
that.
you're into the front.
Lots of traffic.
So I'm making a motion that we approve that.
And I second that motion, except for the 16 feet.
Come on, Mike. Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Thomas Starr,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right. Well, Ron, you'll get your COA in the mill. We appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you very much. We'll have a little open house hopefully in a month.
Oh, that'd be great. Invite us. We'd love
Thank
to
you.
be-
Have a good evening.
Right. All right, our next application is at 221 West First Street.
Tony Steinhardt, 315 Central Avenue. I would like to just state one thing. The application states this is an 1850s shotgun house. Between the application and some other research, we believe the house is of that age, but likely either moved or built with materials of that age, but it was not on that site at that time. So hopefully through the demolition here, we'll figure out more about that. But the house is probably circa, on that site, between 1870 and 1880. 1886 Sanborn maps show it. But the materials and the way the construction of that house was done, it's probably dated. So either it was moved or constructed from other materials. That's a little amendment to the application.
Okay, Brooke.
This circa 1870 shotgun owned by 1809 Property Group LLC, Tony Steinhardt, is a contributing structure zoned historic district residential. The applicant is requesting to complete an extensive rehabilitation and restoration of the home's original 1850 exterior, which he believes is a more accurate construction date based on historic records. Sorry, and I already had that written in, but you can understand what he was saying. He is proposing to construct a new foundation by lifting the house. The new foundation will reflect the historic wood construction by extending the wood siding treatment to the ground. The three rear additions added between 1900 and 1950 will be demolished due to deterioration, but a new 30-foot by 15.5-foot addition will be built to match the existing massing and scale. It will have modern materials but match the historic structure, and will include a basement, metal roofing as siding, and wide reveal wood siding, referencing the original wood siding that would have been on the home. If possible, the existing historic siding will also be used. In addition, the applicant is requesting to reopen an original side entry and to replace the existing roof with a standing seam metal roof. Mr. Steinhardt has already received staff-approved COAs to install historically appropriate half-round gutters, replace all windows with new 2/2 aluminum clad windows, replace the existing doors with wood and fiberglass doors, and add a historically appropriate porch light by the side door. These pictures show the house currently as it sits, front and rear. And these are the proposed renderings. Also, to note, there was an 1854 Plat Map that does not show the home in that location at that time, and I think maybe that's what Mr. Steinhardt was referring to earlier, that the likelihood that this home was moved. But we do see on the 1892 Sanborn map, it does show the house here, and it does indicate that it had a shingle roof at that time. But those are all pictures I have, so I will go back to if this one's okay for you, what's that one you prefer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, we are proposing to put a standing seam metal roof on it. It's would be similar or matching the one to its west. Doing a contextual addition that denotes the current massing. That would be the same as this existing massing, extending the roof line back, and then separating the new addition with running the standing seam metal roof in a modern approach down the side, and then the siding in the back would be Hardy board that would be 9 inches tall, which is 2 times the current historic siding. I have existing siding, historic siding I found. hopefully we can find some historically accurate doors, but if not, already approved to replace those. But the goal is to repair and replace the siding on the original house to its original character.
And we're passing down the plans, because I know they're pretty small on the screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Any questions from the board while the plans are being passed down?
Tony, I know you're lifting the house. If I heard correctly, you're gonna pour what, a new concrete foundation?
Yeah, we're gonna pour new concrete foundation, and then we'll extend the siding down the foundation so it looks as a
Just like the, okay,
yeah.
good.
And when you say standing seam, I mean, this is true standing seam roof, not exposed metal fastener.
No, it'll be a standing seam roof, 18 inches wide, and then the windows that will be in its side will be 16 inches wide.
No exposed fastener.
No exposed fastener.
What are you gonna do with the chimney pot?
The chimney pot's not original.
That's the side.
Just a question.
Yeah,
We don't have one of these.
neither is the chimney.
Is that an awning that you're putting up, like a metal?
Over the main entrance on the side?
Yeah, that is the main entrance would be a porch about 18 inches, 20 inches out from the house. That would be a little modern adaptation of a porch. It will suspend itself off of the main house.
Or what type of material you're using for the top of it?
Metals.
The metal stainless steel?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? All right. Any questions, comments from the public, the audience? All right, hearing none. Tom, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Sure.
Thank you.
Excuse me, historic doors should be retained and maintained, and this comes from residential guidelines on pages, and I marked it out, excuse me. What page is that on?
What's that now?
68.
Oh, 39 to 42, yeah. So here, let me start over. Historic doors should be retained and maintained. Replacement doors should be painted wood or metal with single or multi-glass opening. And if I understand you correctly, you're going to restore the front door, is that correct?
The front door, no, it's not an original front door. We're gonna try to find a historic door if we can, like we
Okay.
use a fiberglass door. We're gonna try to restore the front window. The other two windows are deteriorated to the point where they can be restored. Fingers crossed in the front, but if not, we'll replace them with aluminum wood-clad steel.
Yeah, just as a reminder, staff's already reviewed the doors and the window replacement.
Gotcha.
You are reviewing the reopening of the side door.
Okay, and that material is, I don't know that we discussed that. What,
The reopening of the side door,
yeah,
it'll be fiberglass door,
single light,
single light.
multi? Okay.
Single.
And so I think you're meeting the guidelines there, Tony, on the roof, pages 53 and 54 in the residential guidelines. Original materials should be maintained. Replacement is appropriate with appropriate substituted material. And I believe that shingle or the standing seam could probably both have been used during that period. So I see no problem with that at all. The rear lateral addition, page 68, new construction. Addition should be added to the rear of the structure, which this is. The design and should be compatible with the houses or the structure in terms of mass around you, and I believe that it is to the three shotgun houses to the west of your structure. Addition should not imitate any earlier historic style, and actually, in addition, we encourage more, modern, or not modern, but contemporary characteristics that we might use today. Demolition, I believe it's in conformance. I walked by that, and it's ready to fall off. So I believe that it is appropriate. and it doesn't contribute to the historic character of that house. I think it'll stabilize the original structure, which you're going to restore. Oh, and the awning, was that already approved? Little side awning?
No, I don't think so. We're
Okay, we'll wrap it right in there. I don't know the page number since that just came up, but on the east side, I think that is appropriate. The material that you propose to use, it'll blend in with the side of that new addition as well as the roof.
In my notes, somehow I had down the door that was vinyl. How did I get that? Was I having a brain aneurysm?
All our doors and windows will be either aluminum clad wood windows.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know where I got that. Okay, and yeah, I just wanted to say, even though the sandboard map says that there's shingles there, this is an upgrade to what that was. This is historic material, so it's not a problem at all. But in fact, it's better. So I had no problem changing the roof materials at all, and everything else. I thought Tom did a beautiful job. I agree with it all.
Ken?
I agree with Tom and Owen for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree, same reason.
I agree for the same reasons.
All right, and I too agree for the same reasons. I'll accept the motion.
Based on preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant Tony Steinhardt a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the 3 additions added between 1900 and 1950, add a new addition to the rear matching scale of the original house to include a basement, metal roofing, and siding, in addition to LP siding and matching the original house, and restoration of the wood if possible on the remaining historic house. And in addition to that, the approval to add the little porch over the side door, which will be your main entrance. And this is located at 221 West First Street.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thomas Stark,
Approved?
Owen McCollum,
Approve.
Jerry Wade,
Approve.
Mike Pittman,
Approve.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Josh Wilbur.
Approved.
Thank you.
Tony, you'll receive your COA in the mail, and you can begin as long as you have the right building permits. Thank you. All right, our next application is 216, oh yeah, I think 214 through 216 West Second Street.
Brian Marvin, 104 Sherry Street. I'm here on behalf of Chris and Gina Lynn.
Brooke?
This property zoned historic district residential is located at 21614 West Second Street and is a contributing Italianate-style home owned by Chris and Gina Lynn. They are requesting to add a surround at the left front door or the 214 side and to build a garage, excuse me, I believe that's on the right side, not the left side. I'm sorry. So it's on the right-hand side on the front door, and to build a new garage at the rear of the property. The Lynns have already received a staff-approved COA to replace the existing door on the left side with a new wood and glass door. And you'll see pictures of the front and the back of the house currently. And this is a proposed the proposed illustration for the front door surround on the right side door. A site plan showing where the garage will be situated at the rear of the home property. And these are architectural renderings of the proposed garage. I know in your packets you got several pictures. These were recently submitted as the finalized design. And that would be the interior layout of the garage. And that's all.
So Brian, the cars are aimed at the service station, what do we call it?
Yes. The garage doors are
Santa
facing-
Claus place.
Yeah,
So they're aimed north.
the comfort station, yes, the garage doors are to the north.
But where, does it say west and east, so it did
Yeah.
right there?
The bottom one is the east elevation running north and south.
So the high point is on the alley?
Yes,
Okay.
facing the comfort station.
Yeah.
The basic concept behind the garage as far as massing is just to it's a long structure, so it's to keep keep it as low as possible, not to get too overburden the site really with a tall roof line. And there's a potential for a deck space to possibly happen on the south side of the garage, as that's a flat roof. So if you go back to the other,
That one?
yeah. So basically, the shed on the bottom drawing, the shed roof to the on the right side is mostly over the garage. It continues down. You would really consider that the top of that flat wall would be a parapet wall because there's roof behind it, but below that line. So it was really just to keep the overall massing down as much as possible. In the lower area in the column is brick, and then on the can you go back to the drawing? And then on the other elevation facing the alley to the north and facing the comfort station, those are brick columns as well. It's a repurpose of an old brick, so it's basically repurposed brick and then LP material, siding material, so painted material.
Brian, how tall are the garage doors?
Those are 8 foot tall.
Oh, that's not,
Yeah, 8
they
foot
look
tall.
much taller.
Yeah. 8 tall, 9 wide.
No, I was wondering what they were parked.
And the little roof line to the right, there'll be a gate there. The base is just like a covered walkway.
What's the material and the roofing of the covered walkway?
The roofing, that would be a membrane roof because it's basically a flat structure. Shingle roof on the shed and then membrane at the back or south back of the garage.
Going back up, Brian, to the front door.
Yes.
I like what they did with the, I guess that would be 216. It matches the windows, it looks nice. I'm assuming that you would not add the side lights from that picture there, is that correct?
This is just an inspiration. In fact, I think it's the neighbor's house here.
It is, yes.
where it comes from. So it's
and
not,
it looks much larger there.
That's not a rendering that I created. It's simply saying that there's a house very similar in nature. And the whole focus on this structure is it was built as two. As a duplex, and they're turning it into a single-family residence. So they want to put emphasis on that door, which is going to be their main door. So the concept is a surround similar. I don't think quite to that detail even, but similar, just to create emphasis on what they'll consider their main door or their entry door. But no, you're right. There wouldn't be sign lights. It would just keep the existing door that's there and just do a surround in keeping with that.
I struggle with that just a little bit because it was built as a double with a shared wall, and I hate to lose that distinction. So I'm not quite sure if, I know what they're trying to do, and they definitely are doing it at 216 by the door that they've selected. Would they consider leaving it as the way it is?
Well, so one thing that I know when they first came to town, I introduced them to Nicole and Brooke and to talk about possibilities for the house throughout. And basically the structure, the existing house structure, they want to leave, other than really this, more or less this change, they want to leave everything as original as possible. So they're going to restore the wood windows. They're going to do all the tuck pointing necessary to bring it back. There are other windows and doors throughout. There's a door down the alley. There's a door down the gangway on the other side. They were hopeful that maybe they could change those to windows, possibly even remove them because of their interior layout. It wasn't going to work well. But when we met on the site and they talked about all the possibilities, I think their intent was they will leave those all alone, keep that fabric as original as possible.
Mhm.
Their one ask was to push toward doing something like this, which was, you know, in their mind was to create
An entrance.
more of an entrance for themselves, you know, for their home.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, any questions, comments from the audience?
Yes.
If you would come on up and state your name and address, please.
My name's Chris Harper. My wife and I live at 212 West 2nd Street. You're looking at our front door in that picture. So I apologize first for not sending in sort of written response. I don't know if you guys send out the same little placards or cards that the planning commission does. Maybe I didn't get them or something like that. But I didn't realize this until actually today that my door was put up as an example. So it just brought some questions to mind. So I guess my comments are more about clarification. Now, I came before this board, I guess 11 years ago, when I wanted to add some French doors on the side of my house. And I showed a picture of some French doors that were down 2nd Street. And one of the board members at that time said, hey, that's my house. And I said, don't worry, here's my rendering of what this is exactly going to look like, what we're talking about. I just wanted to basically make people understand that there were other French doors in the neighborhood, and we were going to add something on our side porch, not the front of the house. And here's what it was going to look like. We showed a rendering of that. So when I saw this, using our house as an example, I had some concerns from an historic perspective, which is the house at 214 and 216 West 2nd Street is pretty much like, almost exactly like, what's at 210 and 28 2nd Street. And that property basically has two doors in the front because it basically built as a duplex, just as you guys have talked about. So this is the same kind of orientation. So when I saw this, I was thinking, okay, you guys really aren't going to remove brick and create sidelights, right? Because that would be completely out of character with the way that house was. So then it was like, well, I don't have a rendering to look at, so I don't really know what you have in mind to do. Is it the door the same size? I mean, I hear something about like the windows in it or whatever, or you're looking to make a bigger door, a bigger entrance? I mean, or is it just you're saying, well, what you're using an example we're here is basically taking the existing door and putting something, a surround sort of around it without actually changing the size of anything?
Yes. Yeah, that was the intention. Just it's purely as an inspiration photo, simply because it's right next door. It's easy to look at both facades and you kind of picture that concept. Yeah. But no, not modifying the door. The exact same entry door will stay there. No change in masonry.
Okay, so all right, so that's good clarification. My second question then is around the garage. I don't claim to be an expert at reading plans. Is that garage going to be attached to the house, or is it going to be away from the house?
No, there's there's a good 30 feet between the house and the garage.
Okay. So then I want to know a little bit about what your plans are, and it may not be in the purview of this board, but just so people have background. I basically sold the previous owner, Jim Pruitt, the land behind this property. And it was sold with a restriction, which was basically that the home that was attached to at 214 West 2nd Street be single-family owner-occupied. And the reason that we did that was because previously had been two 3-unit apartments managed by someone that was doing a little more than being sort of a slumlord from our perspective. All kinds of different people in there, not really taking care of the place. We wanted to stop that. So we put a restriction on there for 10 years. So then I see something that basically says you guys are going to do a surround, and then you're going to add a garage. But when I look at the pictures, it looks to me like there's a garage and an apartment, which is not a garage. So I was surprised when I saw that too. So what's the plan with respect to this? It appears like you're adding an apartment to the back, which might be a technical way around the restriction that I tried to apply.
No, there's no intent to mislead by any means. It simply has a small apartment space attached to the garage. They have every intention of, it's a single family home. It's part of, they look at it as part of their main house. There's no intention to rent it out to someone else. The garage space itself is for their vehicles. So the yard between the garage and the house will get fenced in. They'd like to do a courtyard. I mean, the whole concept is the north side of the house is their kitchen, and they want to be able to basically have that extension of space through the courtyard into that, create an extended living space basically. So
it's not like it's going to be attached.
No.
You're saying there's going to be a walkway.
Well, it's open. Yeah.
Open,
Yeah.
and then basically there's going to be a 2-car garage with an apartment unit sort of attached to it.
All inclusive in one structure. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I see. I don't think that's necessarily in your purview. It's more about, what was agreed to in the documents that were signed.
Sure.
And different. We might have some additional conversations.
Sure.
About that.
Sure.
That's it for me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the audience? All right. Hearing none. Owen, do you want to take us through findings of fact?
Sure. Okay, so we have the door, the front door, surround is an architectural feature, so the guidelines cover those on page 33 and 34. And obviously, we've already discussed that. It's very appropriate for this style of the house, so that's definitely within the guidelines. The other thing is the garage. The garage and outbuildings are covered on page 45, but that specifically refers to historic garages. We're not talking about that. This is new, so we instead that's covered on pages 69 through 71 under infill buildings. So on page 69 it says that these infill buildings should be compatible in terms of height, which this is. In fact, they're taking pains to actually reduce the height of it to keep it not dominating the space. So it's adjacent in terms of materials because they have wood and brick they're going to be using. It's compatible in terms of setback was on the alley, and they're following setback laws, ordinances. It should be compatible adjacent buildings in terms of scale and proportion. It is smaller, so it is, as you would hope, in the rear. It is located in the rear. Let's see, it is, which is 0.7 on page 69. And so to me, all the points we read on page 69 is compatible with them all. It's not, it is a more modern design, so this is even follows the guidelines of the that we read in the Department of Interior guidelines, where they're not trying to make a fake old building. This is new. It's going to have a new style. So that's exactly what is appropriate for a project like this.
Ken?
I agree with Owen for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree with Ken and Owen for the same reason.
Jared?
Am I able to ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. I have to admit, I was a little confused on this photo. So until the gentleman mentioned the photo, when I looked up at the photo, I'm thinking that's what is going to be put in. So I just think moving forward, if this is an inspiration photo, I would much prefer to see a drawing of what it's supposed to look like. Because I think what I'm hearing is that door and the thing above it is what I'm trying to accomplish here, and these little windows next to the door aren't going to be on this at all.
Right.
Right? So my question for us as a board is then why would we put that picture up there? Because to me it confuses me when I sit here, and I think it confuses the audience.
Because the capitol's larger, and then the capital will come across, and then the surround will come down. So it's just an example to show what that would look like instead of just the eyebrow that's above the door right now.
I get that, but I would prefer inspirational photos to be less broad than this less confusing. 'Cause I was inspired by that, I thought it was great. And then I learned that, well, that's not really what we're doing, you know, and it's just new to the board, that was going over my head.
Okay.
So I would just encourage us in the future to try and have these represent more of what something's gonna look like.
Okay.
Second is, I think there was another property night where there was a garage with a potential living space above it
Yes, that was the walk-in spot.
that we saw earlier, right?
Mhm.
So on that one, it seemed much more apparent that there was the potential living space. So until this gentleman came up and kind of talked about, Dave, there might be a place up there. As I'm looking through my materials here, it wasn't really apparent to me. Now, maybe it was apparent up there, and again, I was kind of getting it, not getting it. So is that a gap in in the material that I'm reading prior to the meeting where it's just not, you know, all these pictures here aren't in this piece. Maybe I'm not looking at all the materials prior to the meeting. Do I see all of these prior to the meeting?
Yes, you get in the meeting packet, you get a copy of the application with all of these pictures submitted. The reason why I don't specifically mention the fact that this has a living space in it is because interior has we have no purview with the interior. So I feel like the packets you get are large enough without having to add unnecessary material, so I don't discuss that. But it is in your meeting packet with the applications. If you go through the application itself and then all the attachments to it, you'll see the renderings like this.
Okay, I think probably my mistake for this meeting is I was going through more of these summary sheets.
Yeah,
and not digging down deep enough where I'm seeing the drawing, so that's my bad.
the summary sheets that you're talking about, the staff report, that's supposed to be a supplemental to the meeting packet. It should be looking at the meeting packet first, examining the application, and then taking a look at the staff report after, would be the general recommendation.
Great, and I think you also did then clarify that the whole living space topic is not really something that we're concerned about. So the fact that I saw more of that earlier, didn't see as much of it here, it's really a non-issue because we're concerned not about the interior.
The exterior. Right.
Which I knew, but it seemed like there was a lot of discussion of interior. I was seeing a lot of interior photos tonight. You know,
it's kind of nice though.
Yeah, it was kind of nice, but so okay, thank you. That's extremely helpful.
All right, Jerry, do you agree with what's been said?
Yes, I agree with what's been said.
Tom,
I agree for the same reasons.
you started this off. Okay. All right, and I too agree for the same reasons. So with that, I'll accept the motion.
I move that we, based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Chris and Gina Lynn for the proposed architectural surround of the front door and new construction infill building garage at the rear of the property located at 216 to 14 West 2nd Street.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Thomas Sturt.
Approve.
All right, Brian, with that, the homeowners will receive the COA. And of course, you know about building permit stuff, so.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, our next application is 520 West 2nd Street. Hello, Bill. If you could state your name and address for us, that'd be great.
Bill Johan, 520 West 2nd Street.
All right. Brooke?
This non-contributing property is owned by Bill and Patty Johan, is located and is a circa 1970 modern movement ranch style home, zoned historic district residential. The applicants are requesting to build a 10-foot by 10-foot wood outbuilding and a 10-foot by 8-foot deck behind the home within a fenced backyard. You'll see the pictures of the front and the rear of the home. There is an alley running on the side of the home, so the picture to the right showing the fenced backyard, there is an alley that runs right next to that. These are this is a site plan showing the general layout of the outbuilding and deck. A rendering of the outbuilding and deck. And that's it.
You have anything to add to that, Bill?
No, not really. I mean, if you have any questions, this does sit in the back corner of our backyard. We have a very small backyard and no garage of any kind. So it's basically a yard shed that we want to put lawnmowers, bicycles, and things in, so.
And you're just now getting around with this, Bill?
Yeah. Yeah.
All these years.
We use the basement for our garage for our junk, so, but yeah.
All right. Any questions, comments from the board? Hearing none. Any questions, comments from the audience? All right. With that, Ken, you want to take us through findings of fact?
I'll try.
Thank you, sir.
So for Bill's project on 520 West 2nd Street, new construction is encouraged to add to the streetscape and promote economic development. That's on residential and commercial guidelines, page 45. With the fence, you really can't tell the shape or scale from the streetscape. Decks preferred, and porches are preferred to decks, but decks are acceptable in the back, and they're located appropriately at the rear. And then we go back to infill residential guidelines, and so then we just have to bear with us here. But so when we do new construction, we ask that new buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings, be compatible with in terms of materials, in terms of setback, in terms of scale proportion, in terms of roof form, and your project meets all those things.
Okay. Mike?
I agree for same reasons.
Jared?
Agree.
Tom?
Agree.
Owen?
Agree.
And I too agree for the same reasons. I'll accept the motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Bill and Patty Johnson for the proposed request to build a 10 by 10 outbuilding at the rear of the property, and the request to build a 10 by 8 deck, wood deck, at the rear of the home, located at 520 West 2nd Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Thomas Stark.
Approve?
All right, Bill, you'll get a COA in the mail, and good luck and congratulations on that. Make sure you got any building permits that you need as
Okay.
well. That you can build. You can start as soon as you have those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I see that we have Mr. McGillen in the audience. You know there's a $100 fine for being late, right? Come on up, Justin.
Is that each, guys?
That is definitely each. This is at 801 East Main Street. So Justin, if you would, state your name and address for us.
Justin McGillen, 165 Autumnwood Lane, Madison.
Brooke?
This property owned by Justin McGillen and McGillen Holdings is an circa 1890 colonial revival, and it is a contributing structure zone general business. The applicant is requesting to remove the small 24-inch windows on the west side and to install overhead doors in the north end and middle sections of the basement level, which will eventually be an event and serving area. The applicant has already received staff-approved COAs to replace the siding, windows, and doors, to remove the awnings, to install lights at the entryways, and to resurface the basement area exposed Porch stone with Coronado stone. You can see the exterior pictures currently. This is a rendering of the proposed location of the doors, the overhead doors at the rear. These are some examples of the overhead doors. More examples of overhead doors. Oh, and that's all I have.
Justin, do you want to add to any of that?
The overhead doors, we're planning on providing golf carts for the residents that want to rent there, so the overhead doors are really critical that we can pull them in and out of underneath, so that's why I'm asking for that application. And the little windows, they're currently over like bathrooms, they're not really appropriate, they don't really flow in all the areas. You can see where there's regular 48 by 60s, and most of the areas there's just a couple of those, so when we re-side it, we just like to clean that up and just smooth it out a little bit.
Now, what material will the overhead doors be? Will they be?
They'll probably be a wood with glass window.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board?
So are you just removing the small windows on the west side, or also in the front, the middle ones in the front?
Not in the front. I think those, they're in hallways. They look good. They let in
Okay.
some light in those hallways. Just on the front and the back has a couple odd ones in the back too, where there's bathrooms on the back side.
And that's all going to be recited with?
Yeah, with wood siding.
Yeah.
Well, with this, are you removing the awnings?
Yes.
Yeah.
What, I thought it said stone down there, no?
Yes, that's the plan on the lower third to cover that basement with a more like a cobblestone type look, and then blend it in.
What is it now? Is it stucco? Or-
Yeah, it's a stucco over a brick and some concrete, poured concrete.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mismatch, but they've covered it over, so we'll have to reaffirm some of that brick where it transitioned, and then get a good surface to put the other on.
I have one more question. I know the one overhead door is going to be on the north side, and then one's going to be in the middle, but is that going to be on the east side or the west side?
All three of the doors will be on the west side.
Of the overhead doors?
Oh, no, sorry. There'll be one in between the overhead doors, and then there'll be a door on both sides of the doors there. There'll be three doors in the front.
So I'm sorry, I want to know where the overhead doors are going to be. I know there's going to be one on the north elevation, right?
Yes, correct.
And then I know it said that there's one in the middle, but I didn't know if that was on the western elevation, the overhead door, or on the eastern elevation.
Western elevation.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Thank you for taking on this.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been long overdue, so you must have got an itch or something. Knowing you wanted the project, didn't you?
It needs restored, doesn't it?
It does, it does. Any questions, comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Mike, do you want to start us off with
Sure.
findings of fact, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Doors and entrances. Doors are, it says, are the central visual. The visual we have of the property you're working on is not good, so anything you're going to do is make it better. But that's not what it says. Replacement doors may be painted wood, which yours are. We're going to replace the garage doors with wood doors. Windows, that says residential guidelines. This is commercial, correct?
Yeah, this is commercial.
Okay. You're removing windows that really don't flow with the building, and I would agree with you, so. He's not adding anything.
No, the other windows he's already got stacked blue. So.
Okay, he gets that, okay. At least I call it commercial guidelines,
Good job, Mike. They threw that in. That was one of the,
All right.
yeah.
And I believe he meets the guidelines for residential, commercial, or anything else you want to do. So, congratulations on that, Bill. Appreciate what you know.
Jerry?
Agreed.
Tom?
Agree.
Owen?
I agree.
Ken?
I agree.
And I too agree for the same reasons, so I will accept a motion.
Thank you.
I know Ken, hold on a second, we gotta do the motion first. We may all change our mind, Justin. So,
Based on the finding of the facts for the property at 801 East Main Street, to remove small 24-inch windows on the west side and install overhead doors on the basement level on the north end and the middle event serving area. I move that Madison Historic Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to McMillan Holdings, sorry, and for the proposed property at 801 East Main.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Owen McCall.
Approved.
Well, that was close. So, so Justin, you will get your certificate of appropriateness, and as long as you have all the proper building permits, you can begin work as soon as you'd like to.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guy.
All right, we're ready for new old business. I don't know of any old business, do we? And does anybody have any new business? No? Okay. Staff review?
Alright, so we had several fast track applications that were reviewed this month. Kathy Hale at 1212 West 2nd Street was approved on March 25th to install aluminum clad windows, hardy board siding, and an aluminum clad door. Fast Signs of Louisville for 1001 West 2nd Street, again on March 25th, for cast aluminum sign letters. Charles Roquette at 735 Jefferson Street on March 30th received approval to install LP smart siding and aluminum clad windows. Justin McGillen with McGillen Holdings at 801 East Main Street on March 31st received approval to install LP smart siding, aluminum clad windows, fiberglass entry doors, Coronado stone resurface of the basement area that's currently parged concrete, and to remove the window awnings. He also received approval on April 7th to install the exterior lighting. Jerry Taylor at 700 Craigmont Street on April 13th. He had a brick veneer wall on the south side of, I believe, of the building, and he did receive an unsafe structure declaration from Brian, our building inspector, and so he received approval to remove that brick veneer and to put metal siding in its place. Tony and Lisa Hammock at 91719 West Main Street on April 15th received approval to install our LP smart siding on their garage. And Betty Todd at 745.5 West 3rd Street on April 19th received approval for a wooden glass front door. Solid wood will have the oval shaped glass in the center. And then if we go to our April 2020 COA review, we had Mark Cady at 801 East Main Street had gotten a COA to replace the doors with fiberglass doors and replace the windows with aluminum clad. None of that had been done.
That was the same.
That was
Victorian.
Victorian.
Right? So.
Yes.
Okay.
So he had received approval but did not do anything with that. Philip and Kitty Smith at 306 Jefferson Street received a COA to remove a collapsed portion of the rear brick wall, remove existing rear windows and door, replace collapsed brick with framed wall and vinyl siding, and install 4 new vinyl windows and one wood door. It is in progress. Everything except the siding has been completed to the COA specifications. They have the Tyvek sheeting up currently, but the siding has not been installed yet. I would say they're getting pretty close, I mean, just from looking at it. But the project has been started in the appropriate time.
Brooke, is that next to Jim Pruitt's office and Spence's? So were they all doing the rear and all the buildings at the same time? No, I thought they were.
I was gonna say, I can't answer that, but I know that when I drove by, it was, they are working on it currently. David Powell at 316 Walnut received a COA to enclose his side porch with hardy board siding and install an iron railing to the front steps. That was completed to specifications. And Sherry Evelyn at 612 East Main Street received a COA to replace a wood window on the rear with a metal and glass door and install a concrete patio and steps with an iron railing, and that was also completed to specifications.
Any questions from the board on the staff review or the COAs from 2020? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, don't say anything. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
So happy high. That's it for a while.
Oh, she's all around. I don't know how you run into her, man.
I usually see her on Saturday morning when the markets.
Yeah, she always goes to that. And, you know, she's on Main Street Committee, so she's always up and down Main Street talking to me.
Well, I'm missing her
You know
somehow.
what you have in mind.